Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Blind Spot. Just another fantastic episode. So many good things went down in this episode. Let's kind of break everything down. The fact of the matter is, for one, Reed, major props to him coming up with that plan in that moment of being like, yeah, I think the team's up to something. It's like, ooh, that's so good. Playing like he's been by her side the entire time. Because Hurst kind of brings it up later on, because the reason why she didn't kill Reed at the end, she's like, well, Reed's like, well, you need me for something, for your end game, but she's like, I keep you alive because I kind of like you. It's like, I think there's some truth to that, because it's like, I think she wanted to believe Reed so much, but I guess at the same time you could be like, well, from an evil person perspective, it's like, no, she felt like, oh God, I still have him suckered. He still believes me. He still trusts me. Which, once again, I still bring up that whole situation with meeting West from the State Department. It's like I said, it seems like she's in on that, but it's kind of interesting because it's like that means you let her in on it, but you won't let Zapata in on it. So I'm curious to see what that turns out to be, that whole like Franny's helping out thing. I brought that up last night, but nevertheless, moving on. But I just love, and the fact is that she framed Patterson for it, got the entire FBI after her, because it's like, well, you can't really say anything without any proof because she's the only one. It was like, that's so beautifully done. And also Rich in this episode, fantastic. Just another reason why it's just like, you love Rich. Just him helping out whatever way he can. I even love the fact is that he turned down a deal from Hearst to help Patterson. And it's like, later on they're like, oh, you actually care about us more than you want to. It's like, yeah, I mean, maybe. Or maybe it's just because I don't want to ruin my chances for a six-way later on. I'm like, I love you, Rich. Even like when he's giving Patterson directions, he's like, oh, this way and that way. He's like, wait a minute. That's Contra, isn't it? He's like, no, it's this way. Wait, it's that way, right? I'm like, Patterson's life is literally in your hands to get out of the building, and you're just kind of messing up. I also appreciate how she got, like, that mask thing has come up before, hasn't it? I feel like I remember seeing that. Maybe not. Maybe this is the first episode that's popped up, but like the whole, like, I was like, oh, like Patterson's not in that. Oh, she must be in something else. Did not quite expect her to be the man, like the old man, it being a mask and everything until she got into the truck. You could tell it was a mask. Then I was like, right, okay. I was like, that's pretty smooth. Which does beg the question, because even Patterson's like, what does he use this for? It's like, you know what? No, I don't even want to think about it. But I mean, at the same time, that still does show loyalty. The fact is, like, because Hearst was like, oh, I'm gonna give you all this time. I'm gonna get you free. I'm also gonna let you track. I'm gonna also let you know where Boston is, which we haven't seen Boston in a while. So I'm curious. I wonder, the fact is they bring him up, that might mean we might see him this season. I mean, especially since Rich is going to be around a lot more. But Rich later on is kind of like, she's probably lying about it. And the fact of the matter is, you can't really trust Hearst. Doing all that she's doing, covering up crimes, murdering people, it's not like she's really trustworthy. Because it's just like, oh, she's saying that now, and then later on, the moment she gets a chance, she puts a bullet in your head because you know too much. So, I mean, there is something to it, though, because Hearst is kind of like, I don't kill people unless I need to. To be fair, she went out of her way a lot of times to only arrest people, but you could also make the same argument. She was trying to get everyone so that she can take them all out of play. Because with this situation, she ends up talking to a guy named Alpha 7, played by David Morse, which kind of took me by surprise. I was like, whoa! I cannot remember what the last thing it is I've seen him in. Like, the entire time I was watching the episode, I was like, what was the last thing I saw David Morse in? And the first thing that comes to my mind every time is the movie Disturbia, with Shia LaBeouf at Carrie-Anne Moss. That's like the first thing that comes to my mind, but I actually don't remember what it was. Maybe it was that, I don't know. I mean, that movie's like, what, 9 or 10 years old at this point in time, so I know he's probably done something subsequently since, but it's just like, that's the only thing that first comes to my mind. But nevertheless, and it's like, whoever this guy is, she's afraid of him. He's kind of the one orchestrating this whole thing. So the only reason why he wants her to stay in her position, because it's like, it's valuable to him like having her as the director of the FBI, but it's like, well, once that's up, you're a liability at that point. So, and I love too that basically it came down like everyone part of the team kept getting arrested. First it was Rich, then it was Kurt, then it was Patterson, and to the point it was only Jane and Tasha left. And I just love that they did that, kind of breaking the team down bit by bit. It's like, no, you do this, I'll stay behind to get arrested so you can go off and do your thing. So, but luckily they were able to take down Hearst, which it was kind of a big giant game of cat and mouse, and I love it. And there was a moment in the episode I thought was kind of cool. Kurt kind of comments on it later on where Reed was like, the fact of the matter is your relationship with Jane has messed with this team. And you almost see looks on Kurt's face like, okay, you're going off a little off book here, because you're saying that because you know it's going to stab a little. And Kurt's like, you like saying that, didn't you? He's like, what? I don't know what you mean. It's like, that's how, which I love that, because that's, referencing, how, like, how Reed has always felt about Jay. It's at the very least at the beginning. I obviously, if you watch season one, like he slowly got more accustomed to Jane to the point, but he never really trusted her from the very beginning. Like there's a good chunk of the first season was like, I don't trust Jane. Reed just being hard at it. You're like, dude, come on. Which I guess rightfully so, considering the fact is the whole Jane situation anyway, that she was at kind of a mole in the FBI and everything. But details, right? But at the moment he starts saying that, I was like, oh man, that's actually hitting a couple nerves and stuff like that. Because that was kind of true because Kurt was so caught up with Jay, especially at the time when he thought she was Taylor. It just kind of made that whole situation where she became more of a focus than the rest of, like, you know, doing his job, which they kind of went hand in hand, but it was more so like keeping her close and everything, you know, like that. So, I mean, that's it. But I also really like what this episode set up to, like putting Kurt in a dilemma, because it's like, well, Roman's like, either you kill Hearst or I let Jane know about Berlin. And it's like, dude. And it put like Kurt in I like that moment when he was knocked out. He had that like dream, and it's like, oh, he sees Roman as well as Hearst as well as Jane. Like Roman is like, oh, the fact of the matter is, like, something's going to die today, whether it's going to be Hearst or whether it's going to be your relationship with Jane. And Hearst is like, well, the fact of the matter is you're just like me, you know. And it's like, it's putting Kurt in that bad position because it's like he loves Jane, and then Jane in his mind is like, don't do it, you know. And basically it's his consciousness being torn in different places of like what he should do. It's a tough decision. I mean, ultimately you're like, well, he shouldn't do that. He should do the honorable thing and arrest her, which he ultimately does it in the episode. But I was curious, I was like, is he actually going to pull the trigger or not, and be like, oh, she was threatening me. I mean, she wanted the thing. I kind of felt like he wasn't going to do it because she wanted to die, because it's like, to her, it's like, I'm as good as dead anyway. Now that all this is out there, the person I work for is going to come after me hard. But it's like, no, they're going to arrest her. Just like, what's also interesting too, because like the show doesn't always kill off its main bad guys, because obviously Shepard's still alive and everything. So now we have Hearst in custody, which I guarantee you won't last long. At some point, somebody's going to catch up to her. So. But I do appreciate that little bit of a dilemma that they set up for Kurt like that, because it's like, how far is he willing to keep this secret from Jane? Because by this secret, it's the only thing that's like, you know, it's what Roman's holding over his head, and it's the only thing, you know, if this gets known, like Jane, their relationship is over. So he doesn't want to test that. I mean, especially after everything they've been through, they're married together, and he just got her back after all this time. And now it's like, this one thing is going to tear us apart. It's just like, obviously, you know, especially because Jane kept bringing it up, which he told her like 90% of the truth. It's like, oh, Roman's going to try and split us up, but he never really explained why, because he kept dodging the subject. So, but what I really liked is that he ultimately tells Jane the truth at the end of the episode. He's like, yeah, the truth is you're not going to find your daughter because I killed her. And it's like, what? I mean, you knew it had to be something bad. Now, the fact of the matter is, killed could be up to many different interpretations. Like, I really hope, like, I'll kind of get into it later, but I hope the next episode is us getting a full episode dedicated to that. Maybe not. We'll just kind of wait and see. But, like, that is quite the bomb to drop and leave off on that, you know? So, quickly, my mind goes back to what I brought up before. Killed could be interpreted like, oh, he wiped her memories, like Jane's memory got wiped. So it's like, technically, she's not really your daughter. She's your daughter, but obviously she doesn't remember you. She didn't remember anything of her life, which could be, I mean, I brought it up before, which could be a blessing. It can be a blessing and a curse. It's in this situation where it's like, well, the fact of the matter is it gives you an opportunity to kind of relearn who your daughter is. But it's like, well, it's that, but I'm like, in my mind, I think that'd be interesting, but I don't know if that's the route they would necessarily go with that. The fact is, he says, I killed her. It's like, it was a situation where he had to, like, I get the feeling whatever it was by accident. Like, there's a possibility that it could have been something where he had to, but I think ultimately it's like, no, like it was an accident. They were caught up in a situation while looking for Jane, and she ended up dying. So, I mean, because once again, the question becomes like, why didn't it kind of come up before now, in a sense of like, I guess he figured like Jane might not remember the fact that she had a daughter, and if it wasn't for Rossi, she might not have ever. Because once again, her memories as Remy are still gone a lot. So as we can see, like a good chunk of her life has still not come back to her. To be fair, that was something that happened to her at 16. So maybe on some level, Kurt was hoping that was the case, or did Kurt not really know that was her daughter until it's like, whoa, wait a minute, like no, because even then, at the very beginning of it all, like Roman was like, oh, I'm gonna tell her about Berlin. So it's like, he had to have known that really was Jane's daughter, that it wasn't just some lie or something like that. Not less he killed her because he thought she was lying and manipulating him. But then it turns out, oh crap, she really is. You know, I'm so curious to find it out. I'm sure that's like on the tip of everybody's like tongue like, what happened? Who did it? Like, I mean, not who did it. We know who did it. Why? Like, what the circumstances were. So, very interested to see where that goes. And there's also an interesting thing that kind of got brought up in this episode because, like, you have like Patterson and Tasha are like, oh my God. Tasha's like, I hope Reed's okay. And Patterson's like, why are you asking only about Reed? You know, all of us are in trouble. She's like, well, yeah, I'm worried about everyone. It's like, no, why are you? She's like, oh my God, you like Reed. And then Tasha was almost like, what? It's like, oh my God. It's like, oh, for one, Tasha, he has a girlfriend and it's Reed, which is so interesting. And then it made me realize something. I was like, holy crap. Reed and Tasha never really officially became anything, did it? And it's like, right, because nothing, I mean, they kissed and like their feelings were there, but like nothing ever really happened. Because I think in my mind, I looked at it as like, oh, like after that whole situation was dealt with in season 2, after that time skip that they got together at some point in time, it's like, no, they just stayed best friends, but there was unspoken feelings there. And subsequently, since the new jobs, you know, him becoming the assistant director and her going to the CIA and everything, which we don't know what set that all off. Maybe it's a situation of like, they tried to make things happen, but they didn't. Cause this entire time I'm thinking like, no, Tasha and Reed, oh, they were together and then they split up. It's like, no, they never were a thing officially. They never probably set the ground rules of being something monogamous. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. I was like, I can't believe that was always in my head. So like, that's why it's such a shock because like no one knew that they had feelings for each other because they never became a thing. And because that just stayed between them. And I'm like, right. Because I forgot a little bit about where they stood at the end of season 2, but nevertheless, I was like, right, that's why that's still kind of a thing, why those feelings are there. It's not like from an ex perspective. It's of like I've had feelings for you for a little while now, and we never let anything come about it. So once again, like Tasha doing the whole thing where she kind of overcompensates, where it's like, oh man, yeah, oh your girlfriend's so amazing. It's like, no, she always does that. She did it in season 2 where it's like, oh man, like, oh, you're checking out. I saw you with that lady. Oh my God, she's cute. And it's like I said, she overcompensates because she did. Because Tasha tries not to wear her heart on her sleeve, which is kind of cute that she does that. But nevertheless, that's another thing I'm interested in seeing going forward too. So, but probably like next to the whole thing between Kurt and Jane, the next big revelation is that Alpha 7, the person that Hearst is working for, is Blake's dad. So I figured this had to have something to do with Blake's family, but it's like, in what shape or form is like, what is it that Roman's aiming for? And it looks, and also Roman brings it up himself. He's like, because the whole theory was like, oh yeah, like everyone's throwing it out there that Roman did this, all these tattoos and everything. And I'm like, but he's like, oh, I can't believe you messed up this whole Hearst situation. I've been planning this for a year. And I'm like, oh, so that's you fully admitting that you did everything. Which, no, because like I still had my reservations about it because I thought like, oh, he was like on a smaller end of the totem pole, but it's like, no, he orchestrated this whole thing. And I mean, like I said, Roman's not an idiot, but it just took me by surprise that he orchestrated everything. But now, like when I was watching the episode, I started thinking, I was like, right, I can't forget that like the whole plan was Remy's, but most likely, you know, Shepard and Roman helped lay a lot of the groundwork, so they knew how the ins and outs of how this whole tattoo situation worked. They probably all worked together to kind of help figure this out. And I was like, oh, that's actually quite interesting. So he probably just took what happened with the original tattoos and just applied it to his situation, which still begs the question of like, how did you get all the information you've gotten? Like to be able to construct, I mean, to be fair, he was planning it for over a year and everything, but still, like, it shows that the fact is, like, that's why I still can't believe Roman's doing this on his own, because it's like, that takes a lot of money and manpower. To be fair, once again, we still see him doing everything on his own, so whether he has a team of his own, we don't know whether he does have a benefactor building this whole thing. It seems like he's on his own, but I'm still holding out thinking that there is someone above him, but it does, at its point in time, it is looking more and more likely like it is just Roman on his own, which is quite surprising. But nevertheless, this whole situation is like, well, now it seems like even taking out Hearst, it's like now you see the calculated moves. Everything is part of some bigger design, because it's like taking out Hearst was meant to remove Alpha 7's whole, like Blake's dad's whole, like having sway over the FBI team, because I guess he needs them to help him take down Alpha 7, that, or it's more like weakening his reach and power. It's like if he doesn't have the FBI under his control with Hearst at the helm, then it makes him a little bit weaker and it lowers his defenses and kind of leaves him a blind spot. You know, maybe that's what that is, and it like Roman's trying to get closer to him so he can take him down. Maybe take control of his whole operation, because it seems like him getting close to Blake was the purpose of getting close to her dad, even kind of embarrassing the bodyguard to prove like, oh, I'm very good at my job, even going up with those sympathy points with Blake too, and being like, the fact that he's like, well, the fact is you care about my daughter, why not get paid for it? He's like, the fact is that I don't even think I could explain it to you, and that's kind of sad, and walks away. And it's like, if we didn't know you were so full of crap and you're just lying and manipulating her, you'd be like, oh my God, that's so sweet. But now it's just like, all those words, it's like, yeah, but that's more and more deception. It's like, I guess because it's like, it lowers her dad's guard and lowers Blake's guard, because Blake's like, oh my God, you're like the best. You stood up my dad, something I've never done. And it's like, it's so fascinating, dude. It's like, what is Roman planning? Is this all for the purposes of showing off to him to be like, oh yeah, when it's all said and done, like, look what I was able to do. We should work together, which ultimately even that situation could be like, oh yeah, well, let's work together till I decide to kind of cut you down at the knees and take over your whole operation. Maybe the whole point is to take over his whole operation either way. Or maybe like there's kind of a cabal type of situation that Blake's dad is a part of, you know, because Hearst kind of like looked at him as kind of a realist, and I thought it was kind of interesting too, because her plan was to basically get Reed to replace her, because if she can find a replacement, someone under his belt, under his control, then she can, you know, possibly save herself with the whole situation. But nevertheless, I mean, the question now too is like, what is this? Like I said, Hearst, like, I'm curious to see what this whole situation goes about. Like, will they try and interrogate her? Which, will they get to her before someone else does? Like, what that whole situation is going to be about. Once again, what actually went down in Berlin? And what does this mean going forward now, too? Because Roman has no leverage over Kurt now that he's told the truth. So he won't be able to manipulate the team like he wants to, at least in this regard, because there's always other members of the team, because the whole point isn't just to destroy their relationship. It's about destroying the entire team. So we'll see what else he's got underneath his belt to kind of deal with this whole situation. So, like I said earlier, I hope the next episode is fully dedicated to Berlin situation, because I'm curious to see where the show is going to pick up. Obviously, we're going on a little break. The show's coming back on January 12th. I'm so excited to find out like where this whole situation is going to take us. Didn't look at the previews. I just didn't want to know anything. I'll probably most likely get spoiled around the time the show comes back, because then they'll be like, oh yeah, previews slapping me in the face, and be like, oh man, look what's happening. Look at all the awesome stuff that's happening on the next episode of Blind Spot. I'm like, no, don't show me. You're spoiling it for me. Yeah, that's my typical nerd voice. Like, no. I always go back to that Rooster Teeth animated adventure, that story myself. No, my blue eyes. Sorry, that's means nothing to most people probably listening to this, but nevertheless, like I said, I'm super excited to see where the next episode takes us with this whole situation. I'm sitting here thinking about it. I just had to add this again. Once again, that whole Hearst plan of being like, yeah, Patterson. The fact of the matter is, everyone take her down. It's like, whoa, we don't know if Patterson's guilty. It's like, she killed an FBI agent. I'm not going to let her endanger the rest of the team. I'm like, you're such a terrible person. You're trying so hard to shift everything. It's moments like this that makes you go, like, some bad guys in the show, you're like, you're not actually that good at being a bad guy, because it's like, you didn't see that the whole team was figured you out at this point in time, you know? Which does beg the question, like, that was something we never found out either. How did she find out about Van Gogh? Like, who let that slip? I mean, to be fair, we did find out that there were, like, at least two in this episode, FBI agents that were fully under her control, that when it was all said and done, they're like, yeah, we're with you. So they were implants. So I guess because they went out of their way not to cover any, you use any FBI resources, so they wouldn't. Well, I guess there were points in times where they used their badge, but they used it when it was connected to, Van Gogh, Eric's significant other, but I'm not, unless he accidentally said something while he was getting his treatments or something. I don't know. I'm curious. I mean, to be fair, as we can see, like, Blake's dad has reach in the FBI organization. Who's to say he doesn't have reach in the marshals? Maybe he has someone planted there as well. So, maybe that's kind of the whole point, having like plants all in every big, like, initialed organization in the U.S. government or something like that. I mean, who says it's just located to the U.S.? Anyway, nevertheless, those are questions hopefully we get an answer to. Like I said, because that never got discovered, like how she found out. I mean, because however she found out, it's not like she knew the entire team, no, because obviously Reed was a part of this investigation and everything. So it's like, obviously she didn't know the exact details, because she didn't know who on the team she could trust. So she was so willing to be like, oh man, I guess they still believe in Patterson. They might, okay, so they're still in the dark and stuff like that, so I don't know. Like I said, we would just have to wait to the next episode to see how this all plays out, what it means going forward. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.